Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling a really big question. Can we push hard on climate action and see major economic growth, especially in jobs? And for this, we're doing something a bit different. Our whole focus today is on just one specific study: job creation during the global energy transition towards 100% renewable power system by 2050. We're really digging into the data from this single source.
That's right. And this study, it uses some pretty sophisticated modeling, the LUT Energy System Transition Tool. It looks at what they call the best policy scenario, or BPS.
GPS, okay.
Yeah, basically the fast track to get the entire globe to 100% renewable electricity by 2050, phasing out fossil fuels, nuclear too. And our goal here is to unpack its main conclusion. Does this massive shift actually help or hinder global employment and stability?
Okay, let's jump right in then. The big number, the one everyone wants to know. If we follow this BPS path, what happens to the total number of jobs in the electricity sector worldwide by 2050?
Well, the headline finding is quite definitive. Global direct jobs in the electricity sector, they increased substantially from about 21 million back in 2015 to nearly 35 million by 2050.
Wow. So hold it, that's a net gain of 14 million jobs just in this one sector. That's huge.
It really is. And the growth kicks in pretty quickly. The study projects almost a 70% jump in these jobs by 2030 alone, hitting around 34 million, within the next 10 years or so.
Okay.
And here's the crucial part for you listening. Yes, jobs are lost in coal, gas, and nuclear. But that loss is significantly, decisively outweighed by all the new jobs created in renewable generation, manufacturing, and really importantly, energy storage.
Right, that tackles the climate action kills jobs argument head on, at least based on this model. But if traditional energy jobs decline, what are these 35 million people actually doing? Which technologies are driving this boom?
Okay, good question. The study points very clearly to three main drivers for job creation between 2015 and 2050. Think solar PV, batteries, and wind power. Solar PV photovoltaics is the absolute standout. It's projected to completely take over from coal as the biggest source of energy jobs globally.
Really? Takes over from coal?
Yeah. By 2050, the study estimates solar PV accounts for something like 22.2 million jobs. It's about 64%, almost two-thirds, of all direct electricity sector jobs. Just think about that shift. In 2015, coal was only about 10% of the jobs.
That implies a massive shift in, well, economic geography, doesn't it? If solar manufacturing and installation become the main employers, power shifts away from places known for drilling and mining. It's not just energy, it's potentially wealth redistribution.
Exactly. The whole center of gravity for employment moves towards technology, towards manufacturing hubs, installation expertise, and you see that reflected in the other big job creators too. Wind energy, for instance. It creates a lot of jobs early on, maybe 7.3 million between 2020 and 2030.
Okay.
Significant. But then, according to the model, its total job numbers kind of level off, stabilizing around 1.4 million by 2050. The reason seems to be that solar PV just gets so cost-effective in the later decades that it captures most of the new capacity growth.
Interesting. And the third one, you mentioned batteries. Storage is obviously key for a 100% renewable grid, right? Dealing with when the sun isn't shining or the wind isn't blowing.
Absolutely critical. And this study is apparently the first global one to really put concrete job numbers on energy storage. Batteries, mostly lithium-ion type solutions, are expected to support around 4.5 million direct jobs by 2050. That's about 13% of the total.
So solar, batteries, wind, that's the new energy workforce.
Pretty much. And meanwhile, those conventional jobs, coal, gas, nuclear, they decline rapidly. The study sees them falling to just 3% of the total global jobs by 2050. It's a complete flip in the employment structure in just, 35 years.
A huge structural shift. But let's talk job quality. Are we just trading, say, coal mining jobs for temporary construction jobs, building solar farms? Or are these stable, long-term careers? Because that difference is massive for communities and families.
That is probably the most important question, and the study's breakdown by job category is pretty encouraging on that front. They look at three main types: manufacturing, MSC, construction and installation, C&I. Those are more project-based.
Right, build it and move on.
Exactly. And then there's operation and maintenance, or O&M. These are the long-term jobs, keeping everything running.
Okay, so what's the trend there?
The big story is the massive growth in O&M. Operation and maintenance jobs they skyrocket. They go from only 15% of the total global jobs in 2015 up to 50% by 2050. Half the workforce.
50%. So more than construction and manufacturing combined.
Yes. These are the people servicing the wind turbines, managing the solar plants, maintaining the battery systems assets that are built to last 25, 30 years or more. So you're shifting away from the sort of short-term build cycle towards permanent asset management roles.
So the narrative shifts from maybe boom-bust construction cycles to more stable technical employment.
That seems to be the implication. Think about it. An oil well has that sort of volatile fuel Job component, which, as we said, drops from 44% of jobs down to just 2%, plus some construction.
Right.
A solar farm, on the other hand, needs technicians, security, maintenance crews, grid managers for decades. That stability is really the key takeaway here. The rest of the jobs, about 45% globally by 2050, are those project-based ones. Right. Roughly 16% in manufacturing, 29% in construction and installation.
Okay, I want to pause on something you mentioned earlier, this decline factor. The study apparently says jobs per unit of energy actually go down over time. That sounds counterintuitive. If we get better and cheaper at making solar panels, doesn't that mean fewer jobs?
Ah, yes, the decline factor. It's a really important point. It sounds negative, but it actually reflects technological progress and efficiency gains.
How so?
Well, think of it like this. Maybe in 2025, it takes, say, 10 workers to manufacture and install 1 megawatt wind power. By 2045, thanks to automation, better designs, learning by doing, economies of scale, maybe it only takes 6 workers to install that same megawatt.
Okay, so fewer jobs for the same amount of power output.
Exactly. That's the decline factor. Manufacturing and construction jobs tend to track capital expenditure CapEx. As it gets cheaper to build things, you generally need fewer labor hours per unit. O&M jobs track operational expenditure OpEx. As systems become more reliable or automated, it might get cheaper to run them per unit too.
But then how do we still end up with a net gain of 14 million jobs overall if each solar panel or wind turbine needs fewer people over time?
It's about the sheer scale of the transition. Even though we get more efficient per unit, the total volume of renewable energy capacity we need to build and operate to reach 100% globally, plus replacing retiring fossil fuel plants and meeting growing electricity demand. It's just astronomical.
Ah, okay. So the total number of units being installed and run is growing so fast that it swamps the efficiency gains per unit.
Precisely. The overall cake is growing much, much faster than the size of the individual slice is shrinking, if that makes sense. So the total job numbers still go way up, even with those efficiencies.
That makes sense. A really helpful way to frame it. Okay, so we know the global picture, the tech drivers, the job types, but where do these jobs actually land? The world isn't uniform. The study looked at 9 regions, right? Let's dig into some regional examples because job creation means different things in different places.
Absolutely. The regional differences are stark, and they highlight how much depends on local policy choices. Let's maybe start with Sub-Saharan Africa, SSA, because the study identifies it as having the highest potential for employment growth.
Highest potential.
Okay, yeah, the numbers are dramatic. Jobs in SSA are projected to jump from just under 1.2 million in 2015 to nearly 5.5 million by 2050. That's a huge increase.
Wow.
And SSA also shows the highest electricity demand specific jobs, basically, the labor intensity in the world. It's estimated at around 1990 jobs per terawatt hour of electricity generated by 2050. That's still quite high, even though it comes down from over 3,200 in 2025.
Why is it so much more labor intensive there compared to, say, Europe? Is it less automation or just the phase of development?
It's likely a mix of things. Partly, it reflects that SSA is often building its modern grid infrastructure almost from the ground up, requiring a large initial construction and installation workforce. And yes, potentially lower initial automation levels compared to already industrialized regions play a role.
And the job quality there, is it mainly construction?
Well, importantly, the study shows O&M jobs reaching 42% in SSA by 2050. So nearly half the jobs are projected to be those stable, long-term roles, which could be transformative for socioeconomic development.
Okay, so huge potential in SSA. How does that contrast with a mature economy like Europe?
Europe presents a very different picture. The total energy workforce kind of stabilizes, landing around 3.4 million jobs by 2050. But the type of job shifts dramatically.
Oh, so?
O&M becomes totally dominant. It accounts for a massive 61% of all electricity jobs in Europe by 2050. So for the EU, the narrative is less about sheer volume growth and more about transitioning the workforce towards stable, high-skilled technical careers, potentially helping address issues like youth unemployment.
Trading old energy jobs for new, stable, technical ones.
That seems to be the core idea for Europe in this model.
And what about Northeast Asia? China, Japan, Korea, the manufacturing giant.
Right, Northeast Asia, or NEA. This region holds the largest absolute number of jobs, projected around 10 million by 2050. No surprise, given its manufacturing base. NEA really dominates global exports of solar panels, batteries, wind turbines, especially in the near term up to around 2030.
Dominates early on. But does that continue?
Interestingly, the study's optimistic scenario, the BPS we've been discussing, actually models that NEA's share of global manufacturing and export declines after 2030.
Oh, why's that?
It's based on a key assumption in the BPS that other regions like SSA, South America, India, start developing their own domestic manufacturing capabilities. The model assumes a move towards greater regional self-sufficiency in producing renewable tech.
Ah, okay. So that brings us right to the policy implications. This rosy picture of 35 million jobs globally, with regions like SSA benefiting massively, it's not automatic. It depends on getting the policy right. What are the critical factors?
This is really the crux of it for anyone involved in policy. The whole best policy scenario, with its massive job creation, hinges on that assumption of developing local capabilities. Regions need strategic investment to build their own industries, manufacturing components, installing systems, training people for O&M.
So you can't just import all the panels and turbines and expect the same job benefits.
Exactly. And the study actually models the alternative. It includes a conservative scenario where global trade patterns for energy tech basically stay frozen as they were in 2015. No big push for local manufacturing elsewhere.
And what happens then?
It's a stark warning. In that conservative scenario, instead of gaining 14 million jobs, the world actually sees a net loss of about 334,000 direct electricity jobs by 2050 compared to 2015.
A net loss globally, from 35 million potential jobs down to a loss. That's a shocking difference.
It is. And the impact isn't spread evenly. Sub-Saharan Africa, the region with all that growth potential we talked about. In the conservative scenario, it could lose over 600,000 potential jobs.
So the message is stark. Build it locally, or the jobs go elsewhere, primarily in Northeast Asia initially, and you might even end up worse off overall.
That's the clear economic incentive highlighted by comparing the scenarios. The job creation is real if you implement policies that foster domestic capacity. It requires deliberate industrial strategy, not just passive adoption.
And that there's another challenge, right? Even if the jobs are created, they're different jobs. You mentioned the shift to technical O&M roles, complex manufacturing. What about the skills gap?
A huge issue. The workforce needs a different skill set. You're moving away from, say, geology and extraction skills towards electrical engineering, systems management, advanced manufacturing, data analysis. It demands a massive, coordinated effort in education and training starting now to equip people globally for these roles over the next 3 decades.
Okay, so wrapping this up for our listeners, what's the big picture takeaway from this deep dive into the study, job creation during the global energy transition towards 100% renewable power system by 2050? It seems to confirm that pushing for 100% renewables isn't just about the environment. Based on this data, it's a powerful economic and employment strategy, potentially creating millions of stable, long-term careers if we manage the transition smartly.
That's the core message. The data within this specific model shows the job losses in fossil fuels and nuclear are dramatically offset by the growth in renewables and storage. It paints a picture of a new, larger energy workforce.
And the study makes some direct policy suggestions, things like stable frameworks, feed-in tariffs to kickstart investment, global cooperation, and, significantly, ending fossil fuel subsidies immediately, which leads to a final thought. If this data shows that creating millions of secure, future-proof jobs relies in part on ending those conventional energy subsidies, how do policymakers balance the potential short-term political pain and price adjustments against these huge, long-term economic and employment benefits the study points to?
That really is the multi-trillion-dollar question at the heart of making this transition actually happen.
Indeed it is. We've completed our deep dive into job creation during the global energy transition towards 100% renewable power system by 2050. Thanks for joining us.